Call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order. We're doing the roll call, please.
Commissioner Bingle.
Here.
Commissioner Blackman.
Here.
Commissioner Huff. Commissioner Outlaw. Commissioner Powell.
Present.
Commissioner Reddick. Commissioner Scott.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Just ask you, anybody request public comments?
No, sir.
You know, there's I'm trying to get a couple of individuals to come to make comments because they keep asking me questions. You know, and I guess they have their reasons. I ask them and they just don't want to come. You know, people have their reasons, but let's ask you can answer the question that one of them had either in your executive director report or prepare for next week, but they want to know what's going to happen to the residents in Trent Court when demolition starts. And you can answer that, you know, and you know, and I'm quite sure I know the kind of real question people got, but also if the city took over housing authority, would that impact Trent Court property? Far as what can be done with it at that point. That could be a legal question. I don't know where that falls at. That's a legal question. Okay, that's the kind of questions. And I told them I will put it out in the hearing. So, because some of the trepidation that people are having is that when they're moved out, if decisions are made contrary to what we talked about with Trent Court not take place, what recourse do they have at that time? Because and the guy brought up went back to the fire, you know, what took place after the fire. I didn't know because I didn't follow it like that. I mean, of course I wasn't born then. But that the city made decisions to get them the land and the Black residents never could get their land back. You know,
different time.
Well, yeah, but it's different for it's relative to those that because one of the individuals' family was the one that didn't get the land, had the land taken from them. So that's real to them.
Yeah, understood.
And that's real to them. And so I told them I didn't have an answer. I don't have an answer what would happen if the city owned and they made a decision to do so like they did then. Told them in litigation or why I don't know. I told them we may not even be able to answer those questions, but these are the concerns that some of the people are having when stuff is relative, when it impacts you, when it would impact you, it's relative to you. And like I said, I didn't even know that what took place about the land piece and all of that. Trent Court is not their land, so they feel like they don't know what will happen. You know, I told them, well, our plan is to those that we use in military recruiting, those that qualified to meet this, whatever, to move back or whatever. I don't know how that plays out, but we just got to think about, hear their concerns, because their concerns are real to them. You know, I don't have the answers. I've never been through a demolition before and the process of putting people back in after things are built. So all this is new to me. So those are some concerns, but I told them it may be a legal thing and political, I don't know, you know, because if it's a city thing that falls under that realm, you know, so. All right, Jane.
Question to answer though.
I think we'll talk more about this when we get to the MOU.
Okay, okay.
We have an update on the MOU. A lot of that is a lot of the future of the tenants is going to be about two things. First and foremost, HUD regulations. So the tenants are guaranteed a spot and they're guaranteed to have no rent increases.
Okay.
Now they may have to move out and then move back in. And where they move to, they might not like that much, but the HUD requirements are, it has to be equivalent where they are now. So they're totally protected on that.
Okay.
The other way that you have to address it is through the MOU and then the master development agreement with your developer partner. We'll talk more about that. So that's the easy answer is that they may have to move, but they're absolutely protected.
Okay, I mean, they know they may have to move, they just wasn't sure about what would happen, you know, particularly if housing authority no longer had control of that property.
Well, that's speculation. I mean.
Okay, yeah,
And there's absolutely no way to know
But-
at this point, because they do.
okay,
The housing authority has control, so I mean.
okay. Ms. Askew, you had a comment?
Well, I just wanted to share that, part of the HUD requirements for, the residents is to, provide assistance to them when we do have to relocate them. All expenses will be paid by the agency, down to boxes. Moving company is paid by the agency. Any, deposits for utilities or anything like that will be paid by the agency. And it'll all be coordinated. We'll have, someone to come in and, do all that with them, let them know when they'll be moving, who's gonna move them, where they're gonna go to, all of that. And, you know, we take into consideration the children, where they go to school and different things like that. So, the residents are protected by all means. And then they always have, first right to return back to any new, properties that is, built there.
Good, thank
Now,
you.
is that with the same regulations that they had when they went over to Carolina?
No, it's totally different. This is
It will not be
a
with
different
us.
process,
Okay,
completely different.
Okay. All right.
all right, they had more, but that's all I'm gonna put out here right now, because some of it will fit later on. Staff comments. I know y'all gonna save y'all comments with your reports, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, good deal. At this time, we'll take a look at the minutes. I know we probably have so far, but take your time, look at the minute, few minutes, and look at it. Review those and
I can make a motion that we adopt the minutes as stated.
motion been made to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second. Any further questions or comments on the motion on the minutes? All in favor of approve the minutes as a published, please indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Minutes approved. At this time, we will have the finance report. Ms. Wells?
Hello, everyone. We'll start with the consolidated income statement. The total operating revenue as of April 30th, 2023 for Trent Court is $288,213.88. For New Bern Towers, $335,606.06. Scroll down to the total operating expenses. And I pointed out in the finance meeting as well that repair and maintenance has been split into subcategories now. For audit purposes, you'll notice that change on the expenses. Total operating expenses for Trent Court, $358,086.69. Administrative costs, $101,908.35. CHI business activity, $13,159.59. For the Ross grant, $23,297.37. And for New Bern Towers, $245,250.76. And then down to the total net income or loss. For Trent Court, $530,638.19. CHI business activity, negative $13,159.59. The Ross grant, negative $23,297.37. And for New Bern Towers, $90,355.30. There any questions?
Yeah. Question I was asking earlier, in addition to what you thank you for that. But prior to you coming on, there were some things that happened with the finance that some draws weren't made in a timely manner and things of that nature. And it caused a matter issue there. Where we at with that?
We're still working on getting all the drawdowns finished for the Ross program. It's a matter of the users and coordinators, which is what you and I have had to sign papers for to be able to make those decisions. And I believe the rest are caught up.
And then we also have some documents that we have to submit to the HUD office, and we're still working on putting those things together. And then once we get that together and they review it, then we'll some of the items have to be approved by the board, and then we'll bring it back to you all to approve.
So at this moment in time in that area, that's a non-compliance item or?
It is. We have to correct that and send them the information that they need so that they can clear it. And then they're also doing a review of all of our accounting and finance, things like that. And we're submitting it to them, and they're going over it with us, and till they get it all clear. We'll have to keep working with them until they clear it.
This just have to do with the Ross grant, or were there other areas that is?
It was other areas. One was with the capital fund, and
Okay.
then one was an item that they've been reviewing since September of 2021, 2 months after I got here. We got a notice for some compliant issues early in the year and that previous year that they're reviewing too.
So
So,
have you been able to find that documentation that you had stated back then?
Yeah,
As long as we
we're
can
finding
find
it.
it?
Yeah, we're finding it. Some items that we don't have, that I have to write. And so one of the items is a cost allocation plan that I have to revise or write and submit to them. And that's one of the items that you all have to review. But once they review it and give me the okay, then I'll have to bring that to you. But that's something that I had to actually write.
Okay, so it seems as though we're gonna have a good outcome. And
I hope so. I think I wrote it really well.
Okay. Well, I know you said that you had to search for documents.
Yeah, a lot of stuff I had to search for. We had to search for, some of it we can find, some of it we can't, but yeah.
They wanted some journal entries back from 2009 and when the building was flooded, most of that stuff.
Oh, that would have been lost in that.
So we've had to work with that also.
that being said, and in this digital world now, we making sure that that kind of history doesn't repeat itself.
Oh, yes, I don't like paper,
Yeah,
Oh,
okay,
good.
so,
yeah.
So it's in the cloud now.
yes.
Okay.
I appreciate y'all working through that, but sometimes you don't know until you get asked for something. But yeah, particularly when you're dealing with finances. That's the one area most folk want to put a microscope on, and rightfully so.
Mhm.
Rightfully so. So
That's why I've asked so many questions, and I'm trying to understand the different categories on this where you had to break it down for the audit on the repair and maintenance. Will that stay like that going forward, or is just for one time for the
No,
audit?
it'll stay like that. And when we revise the budget next month, it'll be broken down on there instead of just repair and maintenance.
Okay, it'll be broken down into different categories. Okay, great.
I entertain a motion on.
Since we
Go
talked.
ahead, yeah.
So Tiffany, are there any other areas, since there appears to be some concern about the housing authority being out of compliance on different things? So is there any other areas that you are aware of or that you're working on that are not in compliance, or that you've been asked by any board member?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, of course, we have a lot of policies and things like that were out of date that I've had to update, and we've been going through that, but that's the only 2 items that I know of right now.
Okay.
And that was after, not long ago, wasn't there another audit? There was one audit, I think, that was done, that was,
Every year.
yeah, okay, so that was good on the last one, but
Yeah.
something with you got discovered that, well, we knew you got to report that the draw wasn't made, and that's how we started looking at other things, because you got to report that
Right.
it didn't get done, so, okay.
And I will tell you this, in the financial audit, I've seen the audit, people come every year to do the audit. They don't necessarily pick up these HUD discrepancies that you're seeing, that not being in compliance with HUD, and that's the trouble with them. Even when we had city audits, they don't necessarily get into the weeds with things. It's just a general overall. So your audit could be clean,
All right.
but you could be missing things from HUD.
Understood, yeah. But y'all, keep doing what you're doing. Like I said, it's always something when you inherit something, and just keep doing what you're doing and being vigilant and diligent with it. All you can do is count for the time that you were here and correct that you can going back. And when they ask you, you just annotate that, you know when you started. So it wasn't nothing that you created, just something you inherited. And it's a process of business though,
But we've got to make sure that we're playing fair with one another and that if we have questions as board members, that we are directing them to our ED.
Right. Yeah.
And not that being a discussion outside of, with other people. It needs to be directed to her to be corrected, whatever the issue or concern may be.
Once you don't know,
So
she'll
that's
find out.
my concern. Okay.
I will.
Yeah. I would entertain a motion for approval of the finance report.
So moved.
Second. Any further questions or comments on the finance report? All in favor of accepting the finance report as reported as established? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Finance report's been accepted as reported. Thank you. Ms. Askew, Executive Director.
Sir, so first I want to start off by going back to the Lowell Street. We have drafted an MOU with a term sheet, which has been sent out to them. I have copies that I'm going to give to you all tonight, just to give you a chance to review it or to look at it. Also, Lowell Street has received it and they are in the process of reviewing it. So what's on here now could potentially change with discussions with them, but it's what has been sent to them for them to review. I don't know if Mr. Norman want to share a little bit on that.
Yes, I do. If you remember last month, we talked about what they called a memorandum of agreement, and they were all joined us by remote means. I had reviewed the MOA and commented on it. Commissioners had reviewed it. Commissioners had questions about it. In our discussion with Laurel Street's representatives in real time, they said, well, their lawyer called it an MOA, but it's really not. It's really intended to be an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. And that's not what they gave us.
Yeah.
So I went back and revised it and essentially turned it into an MOU. That really is the way it should be, honestly. It's what we should have had from the very beginning. So I know you just got it, but let me point out a couple of things to you. On page 2, section 1 of the MOU, it talks about the purpose, and we made it as blunt and as clear as we possibly could. That this is a summary. The MOU did not contain all material terms to be negotiated. It is not final, it is not binding, but it is your agreement that these are the terms and conditions that you would like to see in the final process. So essentially you're taking a very important step, but it's not the final step, okay? And then the agreement, the MOU itself has various understandings about the relationship between the developer and the housing authority. And that's what the bulk of the MOU is. I will point out, Mr. Chair, since you brought it up in the public comment part, I added on page 9, section 21 that was not in their proposal. And I think it was just because it was an oversight where they assumed it was going to be. It's just an assumption. But I think it's very clear that we need to have this in here, that the developer and the housing authority will comply with all HUD rules, especially as it relates to relocations and the annual contributions contract, which really is the document, the legal binding document that allows the money to flow and allows the tenants to be protected. So that's clearly a requirement on the developer. So next, to make it a little bit easier to read for everybody, there's a term sheet, which is what I call Exhibit B. It may even be Exhibit A, but anyway, there's a term sheet that lays out over the course of a few pages all of the important terms that especially the commissioners expressed interest in last month. Keeping in mind that these are not final. If and when you approve this MOU, this is your intention, but this is really just part of the steps toward a final agreement. It helps us to get feedback from the commissioners on these items. Because if anything in here is unacceptable, it would be helpful to know now before we spend a lot of time trying to put together a master development agreement. Things like the developer fee split is negotiable. And I changed it, I made it higher. You get more than they have proposed, but it's still, I think, reasonable. You're not going to get everything because they're doing a lot of work for their side of it. Things like that. And most of it is consistent with what we have been talking about and what was in the MOA that they provided. But take a look at it. We haven't heard back from Laurel Street. This looks so different from what they gave us. My guess is they're having to read it, but I think once they read it, they'll like it even better than what they gave us. So we can't approve it. I would not recommend that you approve it tonight. I'd recommend that you take it and look at it, especially the term sheet. Let us know if there are any questions or ideas on how to improve it. And then when Laurel Street returns it to us, we can negotiate something that is acceptable to staff and to legal, and then present it to the board for you. And I think during that process, if the executive director and I, whenever we know more about what Laurel Street's doing, we could send an update to the board, do you think? Before, and I don't know how long this might take. Could be next meeting, could all be done. It might take 2 more meetings, I don't know. So that's sort of the MOU. That's what I'm calling it now.
So it's going to be sent out to everyone so that the commissioners that aren't present can have it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they should get it.
I haven't seen it.
Just a quick question, because I'm noticing it. Is there a chance we may do a RAD on this because it's saying compliance with RAD requirements?
Yes, I think there's an assumption built in that there will be a RAD.
Okay.
It's really, the RAD program is not a take it or leave it kind of program. RAD is really a set of
Additional
options. And RAD is the vehicle by which the HUD, big HUD in Washington DC. RAD is the vehicle that allows HUD to allow private investment to be used to fix up the units. So today, the Housing Authority cannot do that.
Right.
RAD's the vehicle that allows it. So yeah, now, but once it gets beyond that vehicle, there are all kinds of other options, whether you have low-income housing tax credit, 4%, 9%. There are other programs other HUD programs that might be viable that could help with the private funding and then that's really, we're laying that on the developer to
Figure it out.
really work hard on those kinds of issues.
And also just to piggyback on what you're saying, that's one of the reasons why we brought on a development consultant to help the agency with that process and to make sure we're making the right choices, because the developer works for the developer, but we need to have someone that works for the agency to make sure the agency is in the right place.
That's
and
right.
Just to be clear and not to confuse the development consultant and the FEMA consultant, because they're 2 different things. So the FEMA consultant doesn't touch on development stuff. They just work directly towards getting us approved for the FEMA application. So there's 2 different avenues for those 2 individuals. So we do have to make sure that, we make the best possible move for the agency.
Yeah, I think that's a very appropriate way to approach this in doing your own due diligence. And so slow down the process a little bit, revise what they gave us, and want to get as much input from the board as we can. And honestly, I think Wall Street should be quite pleased with where we're headed. Just, I don't know for sure yet.
If we're done with that, then I'll step on over to FEMA, as I mentioned a little bit about that. So where we are with that FEMA application, They have asked us for a demolition plan, which we are working on, with our, architect. And it has taken some time because we had to have some surveys done and we had to have, people come out and walk the property, look at properties and, Star, the architect, was here, last week, looking at, the utilities, there on the site to make sure that, the utilities are maintained for the current residents there, as we, make that transition, to demolish the buildings. We also had to, look at, the possibility of some underground tanks being on site. So we had someone out today, looking for those, tanks to make sure we're clear with that. But the demolition plan should be finalized this week, and we'll look over it as a team, and then we'll submit that to FEMA for their review, and then hopefully it'll be that last item on their list, but I'm pretty sure they'll ask us for something else. But in the meantime, that's the only item that they're currently waiting on to review, and we should have that to them early next week for that application. So hopefully they'll be able to, review it and give us some feedback in the next couple of weeks.
Good. Wow.
And the next item that I have, we've discussed board training, and so I've contacted NARA, which is the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials, to do a board training for you all, and it'll be 2 days during the week. And he's given me some dates in June, a couple of dates in July, and then I'll send that out to you all. And if you would, just respond to me individually on your choice for those dates, or if you need more dates. I told him I will let him know based on the feedback that I get from you all from what he's already given me.
In person or?
In person. It'll be in person. They'll actually come and be on site with us. And next, good news, we applied for supplemental COVID funds for the New Bern Towers to offset expenses that we've already had. And we've been approved for a little over 20,000, which we should receive this month. We'll go back to the New Bern Towers. And then the last item that I have for discussion is TVC, Transformation Venture Capitals, the nonprofit. And we're going to talk about the next steps for that.
The TVC.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I met with Miss Mitchell. That's the name, right? Miss Mitchell.
Mhm.
I met with her and we talked via Zoom, and Jamie was a part of that, and Stephanie. And just to give me some understanding of what that was, and it's to my understanding, it's an arm of the housing authority that helped them to apply for some federal funding that was available. But they're in can I say, members are, things are changing, people dying, there's just a different dynamics, and the strength of the board is not the same. And then come to a place where that we can absorb that, and become that board of that particular entity, which is another arm for federal funding that's available. But I missed it, Jamie.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll add that my perspective is that there was some initial agreement between you and Ms. Mitchell that it was time for her board to step away and for this board to take over TVC. That's essentially what we're talking about. And CVC then will become, instead of become an instrumentality nonprofit. It's basically the same mission as it's always had. Now, the reason TVC is still around, though, even though they're not active in terms of development projects, the reason they're still around is they did get grants. I forget, Stephanie, it was $1 million, maybe?
$500,000.
$500,000. They did get grants, but there are no more grants that they need to apply for. So you don't have, so TVC is not applying for any grants. But TVC is a part owner of the Trent Court
Craven Terrace.
the Craven Terrace project through the Housing Authority. So that's why they need to stay around, and we can't just dissolve and make them go away.
And there's still money in that account, right?
Still some money, that's right.
Because they, like, I think it was $1 million from the towers account to put in there, which was Section 8. And use those
Use that for-
funds towards the
Craven
Craven
Terrace.
Terrace. So that would be, the leftover funds would be that and not the grant, correct?
Correct. The grant was used for Craven Terrace.
Correct, but I'm just saying they were two separate pots.
We'll come back to
Okay.
you.
Okay,
And then, it's an accounting issue, really, whether you want to keep them with TVC. There's probably, they can pay it back if we needed the money for your own, for the new development project. It's not enough to pay for a new building, but it's certainly enough to pay for consultants and plans and all that stuff.
but if we brought it back under the housing authority as the instrumentality to do these other grants or whatever we need to do, that might be very useful in our steps ahead with Wall Street maybe or whoever. So I think it would be a good thing to keep it. I just would like to see separate accounting and just separate, so that we know how it's being used and what it's being used for and let it be transparent. But I think we should keep it because down the road, we may have need for it as we redevelop the Trent Court side.
Or any other project.
Correct, especially when you said RAD, that may be used again. That's specifically why they did that, because they used RAD at Craven Terrace.
Right, and that's why they did not use RAD for Carolina Avenue.
Correct.
They didn't need to.
Right. Well, that, all that being said, which is sounding, I think very good for us. I will entertain a motion to authorize me to continue to proceed with conversations with Ms. Mitchell for us to take over that entity. I need to make a motion of that, right? We need to entertain a motion.
I'd like to make that motion. Wait, I'm gonna take that back for a minute and ask a question before I make the motion. Is there any need for you to get back to her? Or I think she said to you, based on what you said a few minutes ago, that she sees no reason to continue on with it. So should the motion just be to move forward with bringing the TVC under the
Either
housing?
way,
I don't know how.
I like
I
that.
want to make it proper, a proper motion.
But yes, we do need to get back to her because she has to resign. She has to-
Understood, but I'm just saying this would be giving direction to move forward. So that would be the motion, direction to move forward to dissolve not dissolve TVC, excuse me, to move TVC under the housing authority.
And what that means is that this board of commissioners would also become the board of directors.
Of the TVC. Okay,
Okay.
so that's my.
You don't even
motion.
have to meet. There's no extra meetings unless you want to have extra meetings.
Right.
But that's how structurally it would work.
So who's ever taken the minutes? Did you?
A
get my motion?
direction,
I make a motion to give
to
direction.
move forward with moving TVC under the control of the housing authority.
Yes,
Does
ma'am.
that work?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that work, James?
I think second, can I get a second? All in favor of approving the motion to take over the TVC, if I was saying aye,
Aye.
all opposed? Aye. Aye. Motion approved to move forward with taking over the TVC. Thank you. And thank you for that adjustment in that motion there. That kind of finalizes that per se, but I'll get back with her on that. I think this would be a good thing for us. All right, good, thank you. Ms. Askew, you got any more? And I do for you too, go ahead.
One more thing, it was brought to my attention, that we had concerns about the vacant units at Trent Court. I received an email from, the police chief that, commissioners had concerns that I was not aware of, but, we took immediate action as soon as I, found out, and, Mr. Jones and his staff went out to the property, walked all 13 buildings, checked all doors, they checked, 216 doors. In one day, they spent a full afternoon over checking all doors, making sure that those doors were closed. And we have screwed, some of the door handles have been removed, but we make our best effort to try to make sure that those units are secure. Of course, you know, if somebody wants to break in something, they're gonna break into it regardless, but, staff are checking those units every day, and also on the weekends. I checked them up this weekend. I went out, maintenance staff also checked, those doors, but, we're making every effort to do that. He also, Mr. Jones walked the property with, one of the city, building inspectors, and, he, gave his approval on how, we have those doors, secured. So, I want to thank Mr. Jones and his staff for, getting out there and, making sure that those doors are taken care of. And, the last thing.
So before you move on,
Yes, ma'am.
what prompted, Mr. Bingo invite me for you all to wind up with the chief with that? I was just wondering, I had asked on the.
I know you did,
text-
but that was not
On the
way to do
email, and then no one gave a
right,
response. So-
because we can't, that's a quorum. And we can't have a meeting in a quorum. So that's why there was no response. And anytime you have any questions, anybody, please pick up the phone and call me.
Yeah.
Happy to discuss,
Just wondering why it wound up face to face with him.
because
I took it upon myself, the 25th of last month, when I was out. And I walked the Trent Court myself and was examining, doing my own eye view of assessments and everything. And I noticed doors were open and everything. From the playground to the, units that's not being used. I took it upon myself and doing my own looking and searching.
Okay.
but
And
the
so-
other thing that.
Now,
the
with all,
reason-
now, from there, I took it upon myself to speak with them because I felt like not just my personal opinion of the view of everything, but for the safety of the children and stuff, from my view of seeing kids going into those apartments and things. With me seeing children going into those apartments as well as people out at certain different times, from my view, it bothered me. Cause I mean, I don't know about other people, but I wouldn't want my child in those apartments. Cause at the end, they could lead to a lawsuit, defeat the purpose of whether somebody everybody knows the vacant, so the apartments are vacant. But at the same token, if a child falls through the floor or anything happens to somebody in there, the questions have to lead back to us. And then there's a lawsuit on the table.
So we could have maybe at the time when you were observing it, like I have done in the past, got right on the phone and had someone from maintenance out there. I mean, that had to be a next day meeting, I'm sure, with the
But
chief.
before I even did
So-
that, prior to that coming up to me doing the assessment of my own, I have already said something to maintenance about doors being open, and all that, the response I had received was okay. They'd get to it. And
And you.
time progressed on.
And property manager and the ED, that was the same response?
No, I didn't go far as that because I feel like as maintenance, if I go to the man in charge of maintenance and he says, okay should be okay.
No way of making him be accountable by going to the ED, but I was just wondering how it got there without Pam knowing, and she's the manager over that, having, been in a seat like that before. I don't want to hear it from the chief necessarily, my boss, when, someone could have come to me. But I just, I didn't like that. And the chief seemed like he was a little bit uncomfortable about it too, because he does have a rapport with our ED. So, he forwarded on to her to say, hey, I just kind of want you to know about this, but.
Can we back up just a minute? She's just not included everything. So I just want to make sure that we're not taking this in a different direction. So, Ms. Sue Lynn, there's been other activity going on in the neighborhood. She heard gunshot fire going on in the neighborhood and some other things that she was concerned about, children out and about late at night, whatever. So she contacted me and said, I would like to talk to the police chief about it. I'm concerned. I feel unsafe. Nothing to do necessarily with the management of Trent Court. She felt unsafe in her neighborhood. I said, no problem.
That day?
Yeah, she called me the day that the gunshot fire happened. And so she said, I would like to talk to the police. And I said, you should call them immediately. I said, because there needs to be a report. You and I both know that unless there's a report, it's very difficult to make changes. There need to be a report. So when Sue Lynn told me that, I said, we can set up a meeting with the police chief and you can speak to him. people, they should know and feel comfortable to speak to our police. So I emailed the chief. I said, one of the commissioners would like to meet you and talk about safety at Trent Court. Had nothing to do with the units. Okay, nothing at that point. So we had a meeting to talk about safety within Trent Court. During that time period, Sue Lynn talked about the open buildings, and Captain Daniels took it upon himself the next day to come out here and ride through, and he found buildings open, as you saw in the email. He walked in them and he made his assessment. We didn't say there are open buildings, people are going in. That is not what the meeting was about. The meeting was about the safety concerns of a resident in Trent Court. And I basically was there to give her support and just facilitate her meeting the chief. Because that's important for the chief to know the citizens and for the citizens to know him.
Yeah,
So that's how that all came down.
that is true, and I have no problem with that. But I think that the housing authority, the people here that are essentially the overseers of that property should have maybe been included in that meeting or just made aware of it. Because I would want to be made aware if I was that, I wouldn't want to get blindsided by anybody having sat in that position at the police department and I don't have the opportunity to fix it or to just give my viewpoint on it. I don't know. I understand what you're saying, that you're right. It is not a problem with anybody going to want to speak to the chief because we want that report with them. But I was just saying, then I would have probably asked the ED, hey, say, well, this is what we're gonna do. Would you like to tag along?
Then to do that, because the
Yeah.
ED has said publicly that she doesn't want to speak to me, so that's fine. And unless you all.
But you were the one that gave her the advice. I'm talking about.
Yeah,
You know, I was included in that.
Well, my issue is it just had,
And you could pick up the phone and call, and I would have been happy to explain it to you.
listen, it didn't come off that way.
Well,
I understand what you're saying, you buttering it up real nice now. But let me tell you something, it didn't come off that way. That is not how it was presented to us.
Well, that's it. You take one side. You're not, did you talk to Sue Lynn?
Well,
Did you talk
as she tried to address or ask those questions in emails, you just said that it wasn't appropriate. It
You
wasn't
cannot.
the
It's a
appropriate time.
quorum. You cannot respond all in that thing. You can respond individually. You cannot respond in a quorum.
Well, I
It's
asked
the
the
law.
question, so you could have responded to me, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying, moving forward, let's be a team player with the people that
Exactly.
we have the oversight. We
Because
don't run the housing authority, these people here do. I'm just saying, let's be a team player with
Exactly.
them. That's all I'm saying.
And I'm saying it's very funny that this meeting with the police chief just happened to be with a resident of Trent Court who happens to be a commissioner on the housing authority.
Well, with me being the resident and the resident commissioner, I took, me personally, because I'm the one up and sitting there and the gunshots are going off. So I took it upon myself that night. I called anonymously as well, but at the same,
No, you should have called
token,
As
I
you
did
should.
call back. the
as a
second time.
commissioner.
Right now, hold on, because when I called back the second time, I informed them who I was.
Mm-hmm.
There was no second anonymous call, as well as this weekend recently, I called them and informed them of another shooting.
Mhm.
The shootings are going on.
Okay. so
Beyond that.
It's shots being fired, not
Yes.
necessarily a shooting. There's a difference.
Yes, there,
So
either way,
shots being fired.
shots fired, but it wasn't just one person shooting.
Mhm.
I know the difference between more than one gun sound. So at this point, it wasn't just, oh, they're just firing off in the air like they do when fireworks go off. No, they're firing off and they're back and forth. And as I asked him at the meeting, did y'all get insight of who was doing what? They say, no, they were still investigating. Fine, I left that part alone because that's their job to investigate. But at the same token, I called, defeat the purpose of whether I'm a commissioner or not,
Right.
I
Or do something.
called because it's at 8 o'clock at night, first of all. Children are out past certain times. So when the children are out and people's taking it upon themselves, okay, we don't care if children are out or not, we just gonna fire off, that's a problem for me.
Absolutely.
should.
Because like I informed you,
It should be.
absolutely.
Let me let me interject real quick, so we can, we are hearing one another, but the email traffic that came out, none about gunshots, none of that.
None
Well,
of that.
it made it a focus of the vacant units being unsecured, and that was it, and not
That's
being
what he
unsafe.
found when he.
Right.
Nobody asked him. We didn't say, please go on site. Please
I
check this out.
got you, but I'm just saying, when I got the email from the mayor
Right.
and this distribution, that was the focus. And that's what we addressed, because actually, we don't get to address the other, because that's a law enforcement with the shootings and whatnot, the firing of weapons, but
These buildings have been empty for 4 years. My question is, why is there not a regular patrol of the buildings? I had no idea they were open or unsecured. There were people in there. I never knew any of this. Should we not have regular patrols? I believe in Captain Daniel's response, he said that they did call prior week and say that they were unsecured, and we're told that the housing authority needs more security or more police presence.
did you get that, Ms.?
It's in the,
I mean, not in the one,
I thought Ms.
not in the
Askew-
traffic I got.
Right. I thought
it
Ms.
was a
Askew
copy.
said that they were being patrolled
No, well, I mean, what
or
happened
not.
is-
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, we let them know when we find, like, if we found someone in there, he had his personal items in there, birth certificate, ID, social security card, and so we made a police report with that, and they actually pressed charges against the individual. So if it's something that we find where we can go forward with it like that, we do contact them. For the most part, if the doors are open, maintenance staff just go ahead and close them, but we don't like just have to call the police because somebody kicked the door open, because we, you know, we find that. So, but when we find somebody actually in there and their personal items, then we do contact the police.
Okay.
Good, go ahead.
So, Commissioner Sullivan, is this the first time that you've heard gunshots?
No, ma'am.
So you just, is this the first time that you called the police? Okay. Is this, now, you said that you had walked the properties. Is this the first time that you had done that and seen doors open?
No,
Or felt?
not first time doing the whole property, yes,
Okay.
but this is not my first time walking the property, no. Not,
Walking the property, I mean, I know it's not the first time you lived there, but I'm just saying, was it the first time that you had walked the property?
and assess each building thoroughly, my own, yes.
Okay, and you should be concerned about shots being fired, you know, that you should be.
Because-
I was just kind of taking that, when I first hear anything, I'm just chair, but I'm hearing from the mayor, from the city manager, it's a whole chain of folk that been looped in. And then I'm hearing it, and I'm fine with that, because you do what you want to do. But the gunshots and all of that, that's a sense of urgency. That's a sense of urgency.
I mean, from my standpoint of view, from my understanding, housing authority had knew of the doors open. Now, I can sit with you personally, and we can go closed in and have a meeting about that, because in the housing authority, from my point of view, knew. And that came from somebody sitting in your housing authority.
Y'all can do that.
Now, I mean,
And that's good, and you should.
Anytime those doors are open.
I'm just saying,
staff
it was
needs
brought to me.
Staff needs to go and close them. I mean,
From a
in this
staff.
situation, this particular staff person, she's been reprimanded for not having those doors, because she knew that they were closed. She didn't
Well,
contact the proper person to have them.
That's really personnel.
Yeah.
Personnel.
That's what I'm saying, like, we can go into close about it, because I mean, I don't know if we.
No, y'all, we're not gonna go into close about that. You can get with the ED and y'all can talk about that, talk about that matter.
And that's why I said we
Anytime
need to keep the
anytime a door is
communication
open, our practice is.
And that's not happening.
Yeah, we're not gonna go into close for that.
And don't necessarily, we're all adults here, but you can tell me that somebody knew. I'm gonna go to that person anyway. I'm gonna go to that person that's ultimately in charge, whether it be her because it's her property or her because she's the ED, but that's just the way Denise would do it. Because people can tell you anything and to maybe cover themselves or have an ulterior motive behind that. So I'm just saying, please just keep the communication, because when I used to walk through there on the walking trail, I was always on the phone calling just calling whatever in. But there's nothing wrong with you doing that, but my line of communication is going to be very open with these people that we sit here with. And I think you would probably get better resolve in just going for handling it that way.
I'm glad,
Because she is ultimately responsible and she's gonna hold people accountable.
I'm glad to know that you were the resident, because when I read this, it said a resident, and we had agreed upon in here as commissioners that when a resident make a call to about something to a commissioner, for us to redirect them to the property manager and then to the ED. That's just how we had agreed, because you were getting called, what's his name? Chris was getting called, and the ED was out the loop. And we agreed that let's just push it back to the people that should be handling this, you know, and then we could follow up with the individual that first came to us, make sure that the issue was taken care of. And then having the idea that you was a resident, you know, in this case, but we should redirect residents back to the property managers and let them do their job. They call me, I'm a commissioner. I'm gonna commission per se. You know, I'm gonna redirect them to the property manager, and I will follow back up with them if they, after giving them time to handle what they need to handle, I will follow up to make sure that this resident's issue or matter was addressed. But I'm not gonna take the ball and run with it, because that's not my job. That's not our job as commissioner.
Is Officer McKee our point of contact as the officer?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there
So
now,
maybe he needs to learn everybody moving forward, who's in charge of what properties.
Okay.
but is there going to be, is there a regular schedule, or is there a regular way that we will, weekly check the doors or check to make sure
We're
that?
checking them every day.
Okay, so that is it's a policy now, right?
It's been a policy.
We check the doors every day, and we even check them on the weekends. I've checked them on the weekend. Mr. Jones have been out on the weekends to close doors. Mr. Nelson, all on-call maintenance staff, and we check the doors.
But now they're secure. But you're looking into something else to help solidify that issue, right, with the vacant housing?
Yes, there's
Security.
a company that does security of vacant buildings for housing authorities, and I'm hoping to touch base with them next week to see what their product is.
Right, good. Because it's needed. You can go every day and somebody still, if they want to get in, they're gonna get in. But the children, the concern, all that is real gunfire. Like I said, the email didn't say any of that, so I had a different focus because they didn't talk about any of that, but thanks for sharing that.
And has there been any follow-up from the police department regarding that? Are they having extra patrols in that area, having officers visibility more in that area?
I think,
Cause that helps to cut down on some of that.
I believe Mr. Jones said he saw police officers out on the property on Wednesday.
Yes, it was about 5 or 6 police officers. But if you don't mind, I want to say, when we went with the inspector, it was actually 3 doors open. And he said when he talked to the police chief, he asked where was the reports of the crime, which, like he said, he didn't have any reports of any type of crime or any calls being called in. So we went through, he checked each door. The windows had bars, well, actually locks in the inside. He took pictures, which we have in the email, and he said he didn't see the problem with the way we have them secure. But we have to keep going each day because somebody's going to break in them sooner or later.
Well, that's true. So I would just reach back either to McKee or whoever the lieutenant is or captain, or, if you have a report with the chief, just say, hey, can you increase, the patrols in that area?
Yes, ma'am.
They can sit over there and do reports versus doing it out here on News Boulevard, just to give that visibility in that area. And if it's been that much gunfire, I would hope that if you pull up the stats, that's gonna show those reports of that. At least I know at least one person is calling it in, but they definitely it appears as though they need to increase their visibility in patrols and log them as they used to. I don't know how they do business down there now, but when they're there, when they go on that property, they're supposed to log, or at least that's what we used to do. We used to log our time there in that area. So the more we're seeing or they're seeing, the better.
Can I ask a question about the cameras? And I don't know, you've been on the board a while. Denise, and you may not, but we have cameras, and one of the questions I did ask the chief was, who monitors the cameras? So I know there's a set at the police department, but he said that they don't really have anybody that monitors them, and that they've been down for maintenance. So I didn't know if we have a set here that we can tell if something's wrong. Do we monitor them? So we spent all this money on cameras. I don't know.
Had it since it got washed out at the old building.
Staff can view the cameras at any time we need to.
Okay,
There's any
So
time-
go
He
back.
had said police was, somebody was shooting on this day, then Miss Minor could have looked on that day, or, whatever, day that we have, anyone let us
He
know.
did tell us
So how do you,
Okay.
you have that access from here to look at it? Okay.
yeah, and these
And then the
cameras were
police
put in
do
after.
too, based on the calls being called in for shots being fired. Get some car
That's why I asked
information,
that
tag numbers or something.
When the police, just like when I file a report, if I contact Watch Tower, when I put in the information in, it's a list, it's a whole list that everybody can see what I have requested, just like I can see what the police have requested.
Good.
The last one, Detective, DET, what's that? Detective Barrera. But well, anyway, she has did something, and it just popped up today. So whenever they do, I can see, sometimes I try to see what they're talking about. Then I would I skim it, and then I'm like, okay, well, when they find out some information, they'll say, this is what we found. But yeah, but anyway.
We'll worry them, call them, email them,
Yeah,
stay on it.
Use that as a resource.
I'm telling
yeah, be persistent with that, yeah.
you, be very
To
persistent.
the point that they are making routine, that they, the sense of urgency is there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just don't wait until something happens, but when just those little things happen, that we're communicating, reaching out to them.
wow.
Okay.
Thanks for that insight, because I had no idea about the shooting and all of that.
It all started with the doors open, the shooting prior to that shooting has happened after all the doors were open.
Any more, Ms. Askew?
Yes, sir. Last thing, on a positive note, we want to congratulate Miss LaShante Green. She's our receptionist. She graduated last Friday from Craven Community College, and we were all there yelling and screaming her name. We are super excited for her and very proud of her.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, is she the young lady that sits out here sometimes?
Yes.
Well, congratulations.
Congratulations to her.
Thank you for this. Is that it, Ms. Askew?
Yes, sir.
That was a lot. But it's something that we need to walk through, because I get emails and certain people in distribution, it gets my attention. Ms. Simmons, New Bern Towers.
Okay, good afternoon. The total units, is 106, units occupied, 100, vacant units 6. Occupancy rate is 94%. We had 4 move-ins, 4 move-out, transfer 1. In progress, 14 applications, 4 approved. Then we have tenant account receivable charge $31,037.99. Received $29,548.30. Monthly unpaid $1,489.69. Tie rate 95%. Year to date, $2,516.40. Non-paid 4, criminal activity 0, other violations is 1. Work orders, outstanding requests 2. Requests received 32, completed 30. Pending repairs 0, pending parts 2. Police reports 8, and 0 file reports.
The work orders, did it have anything to do with the AC units? Do you remember?
Yes.
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay.
Go ahead, Adrian.
They've been ordered about 8, 9 months ago, and we're still waiting. And that's the two outstanding work orders because we needed P-TAC units.
Is that a sole source? And that's the only
No, sir. We actually been to 2 different companies. We actually went to the Islander, the maker. They can't get them. They're not even in production right now. Brown is trying to get us some from another place, from another company. But Islander has us out 12 to 16 months to receive some.
Are these for existing units or vacant units? Are we waiting on air conditioning for existing units or vacant units?
One is a vacant unit, one is an existing unit. Because we have been switching them out, but as the units come available, somebody may move out and then we'll have a unit. If we have an extra unit, I will put it in there. But we need them down for vacant units as well. So we have
The
12
reason I was
more.
asking is because I'm just concerned we're getting ready to come into some really hot weather in the next couple of months. And you know, what happens to somebody who doesn't have air conditioning? I mean, do we give them fans or how do we help them?
No, they have portable air.
About fans last year.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, we have portable air conditioning for anybody who needs it. 12 or 13 of them.
Okay. Just want to make
So
sure.
Ms. Simmons should not still show as 2 pending repairs
Yeah, yes.
versus 0. I would think that, wait, this thing. Yeah, I see it with the,
Parts, because you don't have the
I know, but
extra part, but
it's still a repair. To me, it's still a repair needed, but however, yeah.
We keep it.
Not fixed yet, is what I'm saying.
Ms. Simmons, are you gonna make a column for the transfers though? Because you know, my numbers were off again and it was, once you said the transfers, but I'm still off 1, but it might have been a transfer last month, so. Because last month you had 102 units occupied. And if you have 4 move-ins, 4 moves outs, that doesn't equal, but if you have a transfer, 1 transfer, then that picks up for, but I'm still off 1.
Yeah, and I said 1 transfer. I don't know if you want to continue on putting a column there because it's not always a transfer. That's not a normal thing. Every once in a while, you may have a transfer. It just seemed like it right now, a couple of transfers
Yeah, I'm just trying to make the numbers work month to month, that's all.
So if you would like, it'll be easier if I just tell you when it's.
Or you could just write down at the bottom 1 transfer, you know, whatever, just so I can back into the numbers.
No, I'm saying you're good. You got it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Okay. But yeah, I was with Commissioner Powell on that pending repair kind of thing, but however it works for y'all, as long as y'all got an understanding on it. Any questions or comments more for Ms. Simmons? Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Supreme Court report, Ms. Minor.
Good afternoon, y'all. My voice is kind of gone. Let me tell you, real quick. We went to Disney, voice is gone, came back, graduation down Pitt County, graduation for Lashante. So voice is gone, but anywho, okay.
As long as you got enough to give us this report. We're good.
Tree Court has 110 units. Units occupied is 101. We have 9 vacancies. The occupancy rate is 92%. We had 0 move-ins, 4 move-outs, 1 in process, and 8 approved. For the tenants account receivable, we had charged at $30,445, received $23,598.70. For the month unpaid, $6,846.30, with a tar rate of 78%. Year-to-date unpaid balance is $30,120.52. That went up due to we had with 2 of the move-outs, they was due to evictions. So they left 2 high balances totaling like $5,000 plus dollars. Okay. For pending terminations, 13 for non-payment, 0 criminal and 1 violation. The work orders is outstanding 2. We received 26,
completed 24, 1 pending repair, 1 pending parts. For the police report, it was 21 calls. 4 was assisted by other agencies and 0 for the fire report.
Any comments or questions for Ms. Minor? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Huggins, Ross report, please.
Good evening, everyone. Total participants is 54.46%, non-participants 45.54%. Total occupancy is 101. Case management, self-improvement and awareness. I'm still providing weekly self-sufficient updates to the residents and checking with community service compliance. Partnership resource opportunities. I was able to add youth villages to the partnerships, and also Greene County Health Department. They wanted to participate, and so they're added to the list. For HUD required evidence-based needs assessments for residents 65 and older. There's no new evaluations to report. Health and wellness, everything is up to date with that. Child care, there's still no waiting list for full-time workers. Cleveland Community College has scholarship programs for residents that are employed or they need a job. They have information that could redirect them to that. Transportation, that is still current with carts and omnibus. Home ownership class, Habitat for Humanity, to be arranged at a later date. And there's jobs at Aquatic Center for individuals, well, children, teenagers from 15 to 18, and also New Bern Parks and Recs. They also have part-time summer jobs. And also, I just wanted to mention that the outreach community event was held on May 12th. And there was 10 resource partnerships that participated. Approximately 30 adults came out, well, residents, and I would say about 20 children. And we had a great time.
Awesome. That was on property.
Turnout. I was very pleased with that.
Awesome. Great job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I go back to something prior? I forgot about, on the report and in our minutes this month, last month, Commissioner Huff, he had asked if the units available could be broken down in future reports to show the vacant units were either 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms, and that didn't take place. So he asked me to remind everybody that it was in there. So that would be helpful, and the board seemed to be okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Include them
that's
in
fine.
In the next one?
Yeah,
Yes,
please.
just
Thank
in the
you.
next one.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank y'all for taking the time to do that. And
Yes.
And Ms. Huggins, it's great to hear you smiling with your reports now. You know, I can't see you, but I do hear it, you know. Because you've been putting in the work. All of you have, but she used to be kind of sad with her reports. So, you know, this is the fruit of your labor. You're doing great. We appreciate you. Appreciate what all of you are doing.
Thank you, sir. I have one more thing, just on this. I just wanted to say that there's a new agency childcare agency that's opening up, Tiny Hearts of Safe Haven. Their grand opening is June 1st. Hours are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. If any of the residents and also community, if they want to drop off their child while they run errands or take care of personal business, they're welcome to do that.
Is that the one right there on Simmons Street, corner Simmons and?
That's the 20.
That's no place.
Club Road.
Okay.
Nice.
Ms. Huggins, would your part of talking about with the shooting or the gunshot fire, a community watch, is that something that would come under you, starting a community watch program? You know, they have them in neighborhoods all over New Bern and they work good in some neighborhoods. Maybe it's something that the residents could get involved with here.
Well, I can look into that.
I mean, Sergeant McKee would be the, community watch, and they come out and they'll speak to the residents. I don't know if it would be a good thing, but I've something you could offer through your program.
Right.
Also, a resident council could also assist Ms. Sule.
Okay.
But like I said, it's hard. I've been trying to do a resident council since I've been here 2019. And it's a hit and miss. You have two. Then when you go back to the two don't want to. So that's why I suggested to Ms. Blackman to be a resident commissioner. So someone, the resident could have a voice besides me, myself.
They were strong before the flood.
They were.
They were strong,
Very
very strong.
before the flood.
Yes.
Mhm.
But it
We lost a lot of those people to other
Maybe a
places.
community watch would be a good thing to try to put together and just
well,
make
if they
residents
don't
feel
put
better.
together a community watch, they need to put together a resident council.
And it's flow from that.
If you
Yeah.
get a council,
Yeah.
then
If there was.
Same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you,
That is what I've been trying to do,
okay.
and it's a process with that. I have not been successful, with getting someone to ride. So I'm still working with, on it faithfully. I promise you all.
I can't think of that.
It's just been a process getting someone to, Miss Reed.
We had another Miss Cherie. It would be up and running.
That it, Ms. Huggins?
Yes, sir.
Again, thank you for what you do. Thank all of you. Thank you for your efforts with that. And the communication like that, that makes you more effective. Any more question, comments?
Sure.
At that point, I entertain, you got a question, comment?
no, I don't. I have to get to the daycare. I should
Okay.
be there by 5:30, right there to the corner.
Okay.
So, and I do apologize. And I'll see y'all until next time. Okay?
Have a good evening.
Y'all have a good evening.
Take care, all right. I entertain the motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second, so approved. All in favor of
Aye.
adjourn? All opposed, like sign? Keep it adjourned.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Thank you.